Well, hello there, organizational leadership folks. This is Dr. Grimes. If you haven't had me before for a class, you might want to take a few minutes, maybe 20 or 30, the way that I do these videos and talk incessantly, rambling. But you may want to take a little bit of time and watch my Meet Dr. Grimes video, where I tell you a little bit about me, about my background, my education, my work experience, my family, all those kinds of things that have an impact on who I am as a person, which has an impact on how I teach and how I grade and what I think is important. If you've had me before, you've probably watched one of those videos, and it may just be for laughs to see how my style has changed a little bit, but the information certainly won't have changed. But regardless of whether you've had me before or not, I wanted to take a few minutes in this video to talk through our syllabus. One of the bad things, or the challenging things about teaching an online class, is that you guys don't have the opportunity to ask questions, and sometimes the way that we design our syllabus, it's not real easy to interpret what I'm looking for or what I mean. So I like to record these videos to talk through this thing and hopefully answer your questions before you have a chance to really get frustrated by the lack of information. If you haven't already done so, you might want to pause the video here and print out a copy of the syllabus. And I'm going to pause momentarily here from my perspective. You can pause this thing for as long as you need to, obviously, to make that printout and have it available, because you might want to make some notes on it as I talk. Well, I assume that you have printed that syllabus. You've got it there in front of you. I have got the syllabus in front of me as well. Let me make a note here as I get started that the syllabus that I'm referring to up at the very top says last modified 12/13/2018. It's very possible that I'll catch little things in this going forward, and what is out there available for you to print may be modified after the point in time where I make this video. I'm not going to redo this video, so hopefully they're very, very minor changes. I'll record little supplemental videos if anything big changes. But let's start talking through the class. First of all, my information there is at the top of the syllabus. I am in room 215 on campus. As I sit here now in my office, I can look out the window at the lake. If you pull up a copy of the map on the GSW website, look at the very top of that toward the right-hand corner, find the lake. I'm looking directly at the thing. It's beautiful outside today. I enjoy being in the office that I'm in. On the top line there, instructor, my name, my email address in Radar, and the 9380513 is my cell phone number. I'd like to give you that just in case you need to get in touch with me and I don't happen to be in my office. You can certainly feel free. You have my permission to text me at any point in time. I'd like you to consider, though, that when I get home, normally when I'm at work, my phone is right here next to me. In fact, while I'm talking about this video, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to silence it so that if I should get a text message or an email or a phone call, it won't disrupt us. When I get home, however, I take that thing and I put it by the back door, and I'll pick it up periodically to look to see what's out there, but I don't keep it with me, and I don't have it anywhere close to me when I'm asleep at night. So text gets me pretty quickly. Email also gets me pretty quickly, but if I'm not here in the office, or if I happen to be in the class teaching one of my undergraduate classes, it could be an hour or so before I get back to you. If I'm at home in the evenings, typically after about 3 in the afternoon, it could be a couple of hours, but generally speaking, you're going to get a response the same day that you reach out to me, especially if you use text or if you use email to my Radar account. Worst case scenario is I'm just not in the mood to deal with it, and I might postpone you until tomorrow. But I can almost promise you that it'll never take me really long to respond to you. That may be one of the things that you like the most about having me as a teacher. As we read down through the rest of that front page there, the main thing that I want you to think about is the required textbooks. Hopefully, if you registered for this class before about the early part of December, you got an email from me telling you what the textbooks were, in case you wanted to go ahead and get them early. The first one that we're going to work through is Remarkable Leadership by Kevin Eikenberry. It's very, very easy to read. It's real practical kind of stuff, and I like this textbook. It's just not your typical college textbook, certainly not your typical MBA level textbook, because it's not academic in nature, it's not theoretical, there's not a lot of studies and references and citations and things like that. It's just a down-to-earth guy who's writing from his experience about what leadership looks like and what makes a leader good, and gives us some really practical ideas on how we can grow as leaders. That is going to take us all of January and the first week or so of February. So if you're kind of budgeting your money, you haven't already gotten textbooks, I'd say that this is the one, the Remarkable Leadership is the one that you're going to want to get first. And you can hold off a little bit on getting the second one and the third one because we don't do them all at the same time. The second one that we will do is Northhouse's Leadership. It is the eighth edition. I have got 6th and 7th and now 8th. He changes it periodically. This one has a few pretty big things. He rearranged a few chapters, deleted a couple of chapters, added a couple of chapters from the 7th. So probably don't get version 7, edition 7, even if it's available to you. 8 is the one we're going to use. It has the best probability of understanding what we're talking about when I say look at chapter 13 or something, because chapter 13 in the 7th edition may no longer exist in the 8th edition. We will start using that maybe the second week of February, and that'll take us into maybe the halfway point of March. Both the Eikenberry and Northhouse books have 16 chapters. We're going to go through every one of them because there's great stuff in both of them. What makes this one different a little bit, however, is that Northhouse is an academic guy. He's a researcher. He's a professor. He's a study-based guy, so he has a lot of references. It's very technical natured. It's harder to read than the Eikenberry book is, but where Eikenberry talks about concepts of leadership, Northhouse looks at different philosophies that have been studied over time, and he goes into depth on what those approaches are, situational leadership and those kinds of things, path goal theory and so forth. And so this is a very valuable textbook in the sense that it's stuff that researchers study. It's what academics look at. Another good thing about this book is that there's real practical application on every chapter through the form of an assessment, self-assessment at the end of the chapter, and that's going to factor into our grading. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So that one, if you don't have it already, you could wait until the end of January before you order it and still have it in time. The last thing that we're going to do is Jim Collins' Good to Great. The Eikenberry book and the Collins book only has one edition ever published, so you don't have to worry about edition. Collins is a lot like Eikenberry. It's very practical stuff. Now, he and a team, he's an academic guy, he and a team of graduate students did a lot of data crunching on some of the best companies that existed at the time that he wrote the book and looked for what they have in common to try to figure out if there was something special about the way that companies were structured or the way that the leaders of those companies thought, to see if that helped us to predict what company would become great and stay great, with the understanding that some companies become great for a little while but then kind of lose that greatness for one thing or another. So he's got, like Eikenberry, some really practical stuff that you can apply to your life for that point in time where you become a leader, especially if you become a high-ranking leader within your organization. We'll look at that book probably midway through March, towards the end of April. So again, if you don't want to get all 3 books right now, the Eikenberry and the Collins are relatively cheap, 10 or 15 bucks a piece. The Northhouse, unfortunately, if you buy it brand new, can be as bad as an undergraduate textbook, but you can find them used even with the 8th edition. But the Collins book you don't have to get until early part of March if you want to hold off until then. Hope that helps you a little bit with the textbooks. Let's go on to page 2. One thing that we've got to do is professors, you know this, is to report who's attending or participating in class. With an online class, there's really hard to determine that. So what I have arbitrarily decided to do is to set up a check-in quiz. It's just a simple 5-question thing. A couple of them say, give me an alternate email address like a Gmail or a Yahoo or something like that, and a cell phone number that I can use if you just kind of fall off the map or something and I need to get in touch with you. It also says look over the objectives for the class, what's going to be interesting to you. It's going to ask you what you're going to do to accomplish the goals that you've set for this class, not just read the book or whatever, but tell me a little bit about what you're willing to do to make this happen. And then just got a couple of check boxes. I've read the syllabus, I understand it, whatever. You've got to do that check-in quiz by midnight at the end of Saturday, January the 12th. And you've also got to post to an introductory discussion, just basically a, hey gang, here's who I am. I'm in Leesburg, Georgia. This is my second year. I've got 3 classes left. My undergrad was in psychology, or whatever the case may be. I've got a family. I've got 2 kids and a beautiful wife. Whatever. Just a short paragraph, 2 or 3 sentences, so that we kind of get a frame of reference as to who you are. You don't have to reply to anybody unless you just want to. It's not required for the attendance verification that you reply, but it is required that you post something, an initial post. What I find a lot of times is that you've had each other as partners and classmates before, and it's like, oh great, you're in my class again, let's get through this together. And you may want to say something that's encouraging, that's fine. But you have to do the introductory discussion and the check-in quiz by 11:59 p.m. on Saturday, January the 12th. As you're watching this video, it's probably later on this week. Then we've got a calendar there at the bottom of page 2 that kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to do. Notice that we're taking several chapters a week. They're not hard to read. Even the North House, which is very, very technical, is not more than 15 or 15 pages. So several of those chapters doesn't take a long time to read. You could realistically read in North House or in Collins, especially, a chapter on Monday, a chapter on Wednesday, a chapter on Friday. And then have a day and a half or 2 days. But you may find that getting into it, especially with Collins and with Eikenberry, that you read all 3 of them sitting down in one sitting. Eikenberry chapters 1 through 4 this week. The first 3 chapters are really short. They won't take you long to read it all. And the 4th one is the first meaty chapter with some great ideas. Then notice from week 2 forward, there's a discussion board every week. I'll go ahead and prepare you for it. It's nothing difficult. And usually it's looking back at the previous week. So the discussion board for week 2, when we're reading Eikenberry 5, 6, and 7, is think back about 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's talk about something that was interesting to you. So it's very open-ended. I'm going to, in a separate video, or a little bit later on in this video, tell you a little bit about how I'm going to grade those things. So there is a discussion board every single week, weeks 2 through 14 at least, 12 discussion boards in all. There are, for the Eikenberry book, some articles that you're going to find and comment on. For the North House book, some assessments that you're going to do. I've already referred to those at the end of each chapter. For the Collins book, there's really not any outside work. It's just reading and starting to work on a paper. And then there's a final project. So the last couple of weeks of the class, we don't really interact much. It's just an opportunity for you to really do some research as you're putting together your project. Top of page 3 then, the grading scheme. There's 675 possible points. In this class, unlike with some others, I don't weight things. This is 10% of your grade. This is 30% of your grade. This is just purely an accumulation of points. I would think theoretically that you could generate enough points through the first 5 items on that list that you think, you know what, even if I get a 0 on this final, it doesn't bump me from my A or my B or whatever, and you may get to the point where you just don't feel like taking the final. That's okay. It's points driven. You get points for everything you do, and you accumulate those points and get as many as you possibly can. Eikenberry articles, there's going to be 4 of them. Generally speaking, it is, we had 3 chapters this week. Pick one of them and go into the academic literature. So you're not looking at Newsweek or things like that, but you're looking for academic studies, probably through Galileo. You pick out an item that looks interesting. You scroll through several pages of articles based on that topic, and the topic may be that effective leaders communicate frequently or something like that. So you're going to do a search on frequent communication and leadership or something. Find an article about one of those chapters and do an analysis of it for me. I'm going to give you more information in another video that's specific to that assignment. Each one of those is worth 20 points. I'll talk about the grading and how that 20 points breaks down on the rubric as we go. Then the discussion boards, actually I'm seeing the very first of my errors on this. So when you have printed out your syllabus, it's looking different than what I am looking at as I'm recording this video. 13 discussions that are worth 15 points each. I'll go into what I'm looking for in the discussions and what the matrix, the rubric, looks like to grade those things, and what you can do to get all 15 points every single week. 13 of those worth 195 total points. North House assessments. There are either 2 or 3 each week that we do the North House book. And you're generally going to do 2 a week. In some cases, you there are 3, and you pick the 2 you want to do, 2 out of 3. In some weeks, one of them just wasn't really good assessment, in my opinion, so it's not even an option, so you do both of them. But they're worth 10 points apiece. Basically, it's did you do it or did you not? There's a rubric associated with those, and we'll go over that in depth in another video. A term paper, you're going to just kind of look at leadership, some aspect of leadership. You may go back and look at the Eikenberry book or something, or you may look at the Northhouse book, and there is a topic in one of those chapters that's really interesting to you, and you're going to write a term paper. I'll do another video about that to tell you how to do that and how that's going to be graded. At the end of the semester, a project that deals with leadership, generally, vaguely speaking, you're just going to spend some time with somebody that you think is an outstanding leader, and you're going to try to learn from them, and you're going to write about what you learned. And then the final, just a discussion-based essay kind of thing that thinks back over what you've learned through Eikenberry, Northhouse, and Collins, what you've learned from the assignments, and just how your perspective of leadership has changed over the course of the semester, or what you are looking most forward to doing as you continue to grow as a leader. The rest of page 3 kind of tells you a little bit more about each of those things. Most of that I've talked about already in this video. One thing that I didn't talk about, though, is bonus. You're going to get some bonus points that add directly onto your final point total. You can get, I think, up to either 15 or 18, I forget what the math was, on these things. One of them is to go ahead and put a profile picture out on your Georgia View homepage, but I don't want you loading a picture. I want you emailing me a JPEG, and that should already be open as you watch this video. It's called bonus profile pic or something like that. Take a selfie, get somebody to take a picture of you. Make sure that it's at least a meg in size, and then email me that to my Radar account. I'll crop it the way I want it, and I'll email it back to you. And once you've gotten that email back, load it and submit a file that says done. Don't submit anything until you have actually loaded that picture. I want it to be just the picture you take is primarily the upper part of your body, and with a 1 meg file I can zoom in pretty closely just right around your face so that it'll show up the way mine does in my profile. 3 points for doing that. When we get into discussion boards, it's going to be easier to communicate with each other if we can see your picture. So having that out there helps me out, and it also helps y'all out. Then the other things that you can do to get bonus points, we're going to have 4 video conference calls during the semester, but they are not required. If you don't need the bonus points, don't join the call. It's not that big a deal. You don't lose points by not doing it, but you do gain some bonus for doing that. Numbers 1, 3, and 4 are just us as a class. But one thing that I'm excited about with this class is that I have already in the last couple of days reached out to the author of our first textbook, Kevin Eikenberry, and have arranged with him to get on a video conference call with us where you guys can ask him questions and he can talk about leadership. This is a guy that's done a lot of seminars, consulting, wrote the textbook that we're using on leadership, and can give you lots of great ideas and interact with you. Calls 1, 3, and 4 are worth 3 points apiece if you do them. Because we have the author on the phone, and I really would like to get good participation. Call number, it's video call 2 with Kevin Eikenberry is going to be worth 6 points if you participate, but you don't have to, certainly don't. But that one, all of them really are one-time only shots. They're going to be a particular night when we do a call, and I realize that for some of you it's not going to be convenient, and I'm sorry. One thing that I don't like doing about these the video calls is that in order to make it really convenient for you, I've got to make it incredibly inconvenient for me, and I have to be on a phone call every night of the week, which really messes up my family time. So there's going to be one night. I don't know if it'll be Tuesday night every time, or if sometimes it'll be a Monday and sometimes it'll be a Wednesday, but there's only one option. And if 8 to 9 p.m. on that night is bad for your schedule, I'm sorry, you won't get those points. But because they're bonus points, they don't necessarily hurt you in your grade. So be looking for those things. So in the extra credit, up to 5 opportunities. There are either 3 or 6 points per opportunity, so it comes out to be about 15 points total. The next page, page 5, up at the top, turnaround time. It's always worthwhile for you to have a commitment from me on how fast I'll get you feedback and grades. For articles and assessments, I won't probably grade anything until the due date comes. And at that point, I'll grade them all. So within 3 days of the due date, if it's due on a Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. by Wednesday, you've probably got your grade out there. The discussion boards, I follow those things all week long, and I post to those things. So by Sunday night when they close, I've already got all my notes put together. So usually on Monday, at least by Tuesday, I can give you the feedbacks and fill out the matrix and whatnot. So those are pretty quick turnaround. The term paper, the project, and the final, whatever the due date is, it's going to be a Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Within 1 week of that, I commit to you to having read the thing and giving you some feedback on that. So never do you have to wait more than a week. Only on 2 things do you have to wait that long. Generally, within about 3 days of when the due date is. Again, remember that if the due date is Sunday night at 11:59 and you turn it in on the Tuesday before that, it's not going to be 3 days from when you turned it in. It's 3 days from when the deadline is, the due date. All right. Anything else on that? The policy on final grades. There, you may early on in the semester go, this guy's a jerk. He's grading too hard. I understand this. Please let me know that you think I'm a jerk during the semester. Don't wait until the course evaluation to tell me I'm a jerk, because that's not fair to me. It doesn't give me time to unjerkify myself. I don't know that that's even a word, but we're going to pretend like it is. If you have questions, if you have concerns, let me know. I can explain to you what I'm doing. Maybe you've got a good point and I can make some changes. As a point in case, last semester I had discussion boards, and I had said that you had to post by Tuesday at 8. And some folks said, that doesn't give me time to read the chapter, and I'm at work until 6 or 7, and then suddenly I got to get home and log in and do this. Would you consider waiting until Tuesday at midnight? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's no big deal. 8 o'clock's an arbitrary number. I didn't make that public. But anybody prior to that posted at 8:01 lost a point. But from that point forward, if they waited until Wednesday, they lost a point. But if they posted anytime Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, even after the published deadline, they still got the full credit. So I'm always open to your thoughts about what's not fair and what could be more fair. But you got to communicate with me to let me know that. Okay. Policy on missed work. Keep in mind that I'm balancing more classes than you are, really. You've got either 2 or 3, and they take more work than an undergrad class does. But I'm balancing 4 classes, trying to grade things and give feedback and respond to things. And it really helps me out if I've got term papers, if I can sit down and do them all at the same time. And that's why I don't grade it when it comes in. Your paper comes in on Tuesday, I'm not going to read it until everybody has turned theirs in. I'm going to do them all at one time. And that's why I don't like late work. It means that I have graded everybody else as I've gotten in the frame of mind. I've done everything the same way. It's fair to everybody. Yours is missing, so sorry. And then you turn it in 3 days later after I've started grading something else. It's like, wait a minute, I got to get back in the frame of mind that I was in before to make sure it's fair. And I'd rather not have to jump between things and change my perspective on things to make sure that everybody's fair. So I really would like it turned in by the due date, if at all possible. The articles, the chapter assessments, the term paper, the project, the final. Let me know if it looks like it's going to be late. If there's a reasonable reason for it, that's okay. But knowing ahead of time helps me out. I'd be willing to take it a couple of days after the due date. I'm not going to give you a week or 2 weeks or when do you feel like turning it in kind of approach. Within a couple of days, I think like by Tuesday, if it was due on Sunday, for a couple of points loss or a certain percentage loss, 2% loss or whatever. Discussion boards, if you can't participate during the week, we're out of luck, because discussion boards is all about going back and forth and interacting. And if everybody else participated in the discussion board this week and it's not convenient to you until next week, there's nobody left to discuss with. So if the discussion board's closed, it's closed. We're not going to be able to make that up. Hope that makes sense. Nothing else on page 6. Page 8, the only thing about cheating is you got to make sure that you cite your references when you do term papers and things like that. That'll be a function of the grading. I'll try to set it up to where it does go through turnitin.com, but you can submit the paper twice. You can submit the paper once with your draft, wait a little bit, come back, see what the score is on the originality or the plagiarism score, and then make some modifications to it and submit the final copy to make sure that you get the number that you want. If your number's too high on a Turnitin score, I'm going to report you for plagiarism. That's all there is to it. It's a 0 on that particular activity, but it's not necessarily an F for the course. It'll factor into the big grade. It'll be a loss of points. But I'm not going to automatically fail you for the whole course because you plagiarized one paper. If you've done everything else pretty well, that's fine. But if there's two things that are questionable, then you stand the risk of an F for the course. So don't do anything wrong and you've got nothing to worry about. Finally, the list of critical dates. You see there about halfway down the list, bonus call 2 with Kevin Eichenberry. Go ahead and put it on your calendar now. Monday, February the 11th from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Georgia time. That's what was convenient for him. He's not going to do 2 phone calls, just like I'm not going to do 2 phone calls. If you go ahead and put on your calendar tonight, Monday, February the 11th, it shouldn't conflict with Valentine's Day or anything like that. Go ahead and block that off and make sure that nothing else gets in the way. You'll have a great interaction with an author, with somebody who knows an awful lot about leadership, and you'll learn in the process. That's the syllabus. I hope that answers most of your questions. Anything that didn't get answered specific to grading or rubrics or things like that, I'm not going to try to do here. This has already been way too long. I'll do those in separate videos that you can look at when it's convenient to you. If you have questions, send me a text, send me an email, preferably through Radar. I think I say on the home page there that I would rather you no, I don't. That's on a different syllabus. I'd rather you email me through Radar. If you email me through Georgia View, it's hard for me to respond, especially if I'm not sitting at my desk in my office. Radar email, I can respond from my phone wherever I happen to be. So if you have questions, let me know. There's also a discussion board out there called Ask Dr. Grimes. You can post something. If you think other people in the class might have the same question, I can respond to that. Everybody learns at the same time. I'm going to let you go for now and get ready to record another video about one of the specific rubrics for discussion boards or something like that. But I'm looking forward to a good semester. I hope that you are looking forward to some very interesting conversations, discussions, so forth about leadership, and that you're going to find ways through the semester to become an even better leader than you are right now.